Well, hello everyone. Welcome to this morning's webcast about future-proofing your back office solutions. I'm James Bouch. I'm business lead for public sector here at Inoapps. And today I'm joined by Deborah Lilly, our VP of Customer Success. And she's going to take you through some of the decisions that you face as central government departments in the wake of the upcoming decisions on technology provider, which are being made for the central government shared service clusters. We've placed everyone on mute at the moment. If you do have any questions, just submit them using the Q&A panel on the control panel in the GoToWebinar, and we'll certainly answer them at the end of the session. And this session is going to be recorded, and we'll send that recording out. So, as a reminder of the clusters, 3 of the 5 shared service clusters, Matrix, Synergy, and Unity, will announce decisions on the strategic technology partners that have been successful, and that announcement is going to be July, August. That'll result in every cluster member ultimately migrating to that technology over the next period of time. However, the decisions that are going to be announced this summer are only the start of your journey as an organisation with a technology platform. And the timeline for your own migration may not be suitable under the clusters for your own cloud strategy. Whatever decisions are made, there are a number of things that you're going to have to think about, and you may have to make some decisions before your turn in the cluster queue actually arrives. And those decisions really fall into 3 areas. What technology platform you're on now, how do you prepare to migrate to the platform that is being chosen as the cluster winner? Secondly, what planning do you have to consider in the midterm? And thirdly, if you can't wait for your turn in the cluster waiting list, how do you fast track to the new solution so that you are more prepared and ready when it finally is your time? So before I hand over to Deborah, let me tell you just a little bit about Inoapps. We're an organisation of around about 500 employees. We've been in business for a number of years, over 20 years now, working with Oracle. We have over 400 customers and operate globally. We're running in excess of 500 Oracle projects at the moment, and we are dedicated to Oracle as a service provider for them. We also have a number of Oracle certified consultants and capabilities to deliver services onshore and offshore. So very briefly, what we do, the best way of describing the services we provide is that we really provide a full life cycle of services for organizations that are using Oracle. We can provide services for those that are in the cloud or on premise, and those services really run from implementation services, upgrade services, and management of your technology platform. Through enterprise change, we can help organizations manage change programs within their organization, business transformation, technology transformation. We also provide a full managed service, so we can provide services from break fix right through to continuous improvement. And then ultimately we can provide you with long-term strategic consultancy, helping you to make the most not only of your application services, but also of your technical database services if you use Oracle on the technology side. Okay, so that's a very brief introduction to Inoapps and an introduction to the webinar for this morning. I'm now going to hand you over to Deborah, who is our VP of Customer Success.
Thank you very much, James. So my name's Deborah Lilly, and I've got 27 years experience in Oracle across the full breadth of apps and tech. And I've worked on thousands, literally thousands of implementations over a range of industries. But I came from a public sector background. My first Oracle role was with the Northern Ireland Civil Service, who were early implementers of Oracle E-Business Suite. Prior to that, before I moved into the Oracle world, I worked my first IT job was with the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food, so that really dates me. And I also worked for the MOD in Berlin, so a lot of experience there. I've always been passionate about the users of technology and them having their say with the vendors. Um, Oracle's model of user groups is independent, and so that led to me being very involved, and still am, in user groups today. And many of you will have seen me around the UK at UK over those 27 years. I had the privilege, and it really was a privilege, to represent user groups worldwide into the building of what's known as the Oracle Fusion SaaS application. And that led me to being recognised by Oracle as an ACE director. Now, the ACE program is Oracle's advocate program, and the highest level ACE director are all sponsored directly by heads of development. There are only 3 globally for the Oracle Cloud applications, and I am very honoured to be one of those. Technology is, by its very nature, always changing, always moving forward. And my relationships with Oracle development have never been more valuable than they are today. And that's used for the benefit of both Inoapps, my organization, but our customers at the right time. And my whole role at Inoapps is an investment to ensure the success of our customers in their use of their applications. And that doesn't matter whether it's cloud or applications unlimited in the Oracle space. It's about making sure that people get the best out of what they've bought. So James and I had this conversation. One of the things that I do a lot is road mapping with customers. I suppose I like analogies, and I was thinking it's a bit like getting your child ready for school. We all know that our children will start a new year in September, but you don't just wait until September and then hope that everything turns up. You start looking now. I went to a supermarket yesterday. It's full of new school uniforms. So check what you've got, look at what you will need, and don't wait for that day to happen. And I think that's how I feel about this. So as James said, road mapping is a really important part of what I do. And it's interesting that I'm not giving the answers per se in a session like this. It's more generic. What I'm saying are these are the things that you should be considering. And I wrote this. It started as a article for a user group magazine many years ago, and it's become the most popular presentation that I give, both to our own customers and at user groups worldwide, simply because it's a single conversation, or the start of a single conversation. And quite often you get technology and functional answers from vendors that may be different. And I was very honoured last year to be asked to give this presentation at Oracle's flagship event in the States, and have been asked to repeat it again this year. It's very simple. It's just about the things that you should be considering. And what we will do as part of the follow-up to this is that we will send out a link to, I did it a few months ago, and we'll send out a link to that webinar, and you can have a look at the more generic road mapping for customers. But in my conversations with James, we looked at some of the things that would be slightly different in this scenario. So I start by saying to people, the first thing you need to understand is your organization. And that sometimes sounds a bit odd, because surely you do know your organization, but it's worth revisiting. What is it that you are doing? What is your strategy as an organization? And what is your technology, your IT strategy? And all of those things are about looking at yourselves and what you're doing. But when those strategies were created, they included external factors. And this situation that you're in at the moment while you're waiting is another set of external factors. So we thought we would tip this on its head a little bit and talk through some of the things that I discuss with customers every day, but more in this very specific scenario. So the first thing is, does your ERP, does your systems today, the systems that the shared services are going to provide in the future, does the system for which you use that today cover what you need today and tomorrow up until you move to whatever the final decision is for your cluster? And that's a single question, but actually there's an awful lot behind it. It's unlikely, or you're very lucky, if everything that's going to cover is in a single system today. So it may well be that your finance is in one system. It may be that your people systems are somewhere else. It may be, if I think about, I said my first public sector job was in math. Actually, I lied, it was in Crown Agents, but my first technology job in the public sector was in math. That, as an organisation, has changed very much since then. Has your organisation changed since you implemented your main ERP? You may have 2 or 3 systems that you're using to do the same process, which is a historic legacy of change that's happened in your organisation. So what you're actually considering here is your end-to-end ERP processes and the systems that support them, rather than just a single system. So does it cover everything that you need today? And will that last until you move? And if you think the answer to that is yes, and that may be because you've done something recently, and it may be because, good governance, it may be for all sorts of reasons. But if that is true, there is still things that you can do to prepare. Some of the things that make a migration, a transformation difficult, excuse me, excuse me. Some of the things that make it complicated are around data, integrations, and any customizations that you may have. So just thinking about how long most people have been on systems, I think, on average in government, people have been on systems for tens of years rather than single digits. And so is your data as clean as it needs to be to move forward? Can you start disabling data that is no longer relevant? Suppliers that you no longer use, customers that you no longer work with, just your account structure, not necessarily changing your account structure. I'm not suggesting that, but disabling codes that are no longer used, cost centers that are no longer relevant, so that when the time comes, your data is in the best possible state, so that your migration is as easy as possible. That's also true about integrations. Quite often we're talking to a customer and we're moving them and they say, oh yes, we've got 5 integrations, 3 are outbound, 2 are inbound. And when we actually unpick that and start to replace them, one of those actually goes through several old legacy systems, which no one's is quite sure what it's doing, but it gets to the end point eventually. So is there any simplifications that you can do now, or modernization of your integrations, that again will make you more prepared for when you move? Processes. How do we do things today over how did we do them when you first implemented? Procurement is probably the area that I see the most change in the finance side. But when you look at people, the way that we deal with our employees has moved on an awful long way. So there may be things, processes that you can revisit as well, so that you're in a more modern process for when you go to your shared service, which will be modern. And the area in this box that is the most exciting for me is the customizations. When we implemented systems 10, 15, 20 years ago, I've been doing this for 27 years, we were able to customize. And that was great. That meant every requirement that we had, we could do. And that then created a problem that it was a challenge, a hurdle for upgrading. So for a lot of organizations, they haven't moved as forward as they could because they've had this barrier around their customizations. That barrier will still exist when the time comes to move. It will be, how do you unpick that? How much of it do you need? And, and how are you going to address that going forward? Now, for me, a really good thing that people can do is start to understand exactly what they've got. Are those customizations still needed? If they're still needed, is there a better way of doing them? Quite often people customize things that weren't functionality, and now their software provider has added it as standard functionality, but they never undid the customization and started using that. So that is something that you could look at as well. If it is still needed, and I'm going to challenge that, is it still needed, then how might it be looked at going forward? My challenge to is it still needed is, if your customization is on, I don't know, the color of the report that you send out to people every month, or the way that you procure items, then is that necessarily required? Is there a modern best practice? Is there a way of dealing with procurement that is better for your organization than the customization that you've implemented at the time in good faith, but may now be a victim of, we've always done it that way? I believe it would be wrong to say you don't need any customizations. I don't like the term customization in the cloud. We talk about extending, coexisting, having your special processes perhaps separately and merged together. But I do believe that people do have requirements for some. And I like to have this conversation around, what is it that your organization does that makes your organization what it is, right? And then that's where, if you're using your ERP system to perhaps support some of those things, that is where you might find the need for, let's use the term customization, but for something to be extended for your organization. We're going to talk about a current customer later, but they have the need for their employees to be both employees but also associates. They bill for the services they provide, but they still have an employee status. Now, when this customer came to me with this requirement, it was fine. I'd seen that before, and I'd seen it in the public sector where legal people who have the need for training, for their HR requirements, their learning, their vacation, to be an employee, but actually they don't have a salary. They bill for their time as an associate. That is something that's not standard. Being able to handle that is something that can be done in systems, but to me, that is a requirement that is non-standard, that is acceptable, because it's about what your business is, what your organization does, as opposed to, I'd like a different procurement standard than the way the Institute of Procurement suggests that procurement is done. So that understanding what you've done with your current system or systems is an incredibly important place that you could be, and then you would be prepared for when your time comes, and it will take away the stress of some of those hurdles and make you ready and be in the driving seat about how you move to that system when it's ready for you. So that was the first point I wanted to make, that there is something that anybody can do to think about it. Don't wait until, depending on where you are, the day before school starts till you run out and buy a new uniform. Think about what it is that you need for when it's your turn on the government shared service. But what if your system won't wait until you get there? What if you've got a set of factors which are a burning bridge for your organisation today? Is it as simple as technology? Is it as simple as, we need to close our data centre and we're still running that system? So although it does what we need it to do, it's not, we can't host it. It might be that the system you're using is going to be de-supported in that period of time. It might be that you need functionality because of how your organisation itself is moving that isn't available in your current system. And it might be that it's just simply too complex and another few years of that complexity won't work. Or it might be that you've got great plans for new technology and your systems aren't going to support that. There may be areas where you want to use AI, that are useful to you but aren't going to work with the technology that you've got today. So if you have a burning bridge and you need to do something, then one of the things that that we'd like to have a conversation with you is we have an evolved methodology, Inoapps evolved methodology, which enables us to take someone to an Oracle SaaS ERP very quickly. We take out all of the, you could do this, you could do that, have a standard build that for you, and get you there as quickly as possible and give you the value that a modern system will give you very quickly. And that could give you a couple of years that will enable you to be modern, working, solve those problems that you've got today, but then still be ready when the time comes for you to move on to a shared service. The reason why I said you'd still be prepared is because as part of that methodology, you would have looked at your data, you would have looked at your customizations, your integrations would have been simplified, etc. Whilst it's not public sector, we did a webcast not that many weeks ago with a current healthcare provider who are doing this exact thing. They wanted to bring in a new system quickly that covers both their finance and HR, so this full ERP scope, and have that up and running very quickly. And they go live in a few weeks, and their CIO is more than happy to talk about why this works for them. And we'll send you again a link to that webcast if that would be of use to you. If your current system is Oracle, and that could be both the cloud Oracle today, so Fusion applications today, or one of the apps unlimited, so eBusiness Suite, PeopleSoft, etc. What are the things that you could do today? So, this is the scenario where you're on an Oracle technology and the waiting is still going to cause you problems. So what are the sorts of things that we could do today? And this is if I go back to my generic road mapping, one of the areas that I spend most of the time in, customers who maybe perhaps on Applications Unlimited, eBusiness Suite, PeopleSoft, who want to go to cloud, but today is not the right time for them. But they know that they will, and they know that anything that they do now, they want to have an eye on the future. And so if I'm an eBusiness Suite customer, the sort of things that I'm looking at today are hygiene factors. There's a change in support, so people need to be on 12.2.7 as a version. They need to be on 19 for the database. They may decide that hosting is better for them than being in a data center. So those are the hygiene factors that we see a lot of eBusiness Suite customers doing. From a functionality point of view, we see a lot of people who are perhaps bringing systems together through an external EPM system, so perhaps consolidating multiple ERPs, starting to use that data to drive decisions rather than purely just listing information. So for a lot of customers who are not ready to move to a cloud application, they're bringing in cloud enterprise performance management to give them that step forward. And that might be something that you could do, get value, sort out some problems today, and again, be prepared for the future. One of the things that we actually see quite often isn't a technology issue, it's a resourcing issue. It's, I think I said 27 years in this business. A lot of people have had their systems for 15, 20 years and the same people supporting them. And those people are in that privileged position that they're going into retirement. So resourcing of some of these systems is difficult. And so we see a lot of people move to a managed service when perhaps they hadn't in the past, purely because of resourcing. But managed services is far more than just keeping the lights on. It's about getting more value out of your system. I like to say it's not about what the technology can do, it's about what are your challenges as an organization, and then let's see if the technology that's there today can help. And we have, a number of customers where we have done, an analysis of what they're doing today, and they tell us the challenges that they've got, and then we look at how can we overcome that challenge today with the technology they have, but with an eye on the future, so that again they're in the best possible place for when the time comes for them. So there is lots that can be done if you're on an Oracle technology today, but you need to do things before it's your turn to join the shared service. If you're on cloud today, there are also things that need to be done. Having moved to cloud, having moved to a modern application from Oracle, today, that's not the end of it. It is a continuously innovating application, and that requires continuous work with that system. And I have unfortunately seen a number of organizations who've implemented 2 or 3 years ago, made a great transformation at that point, but the reality is that they have not done an awful lot with that innovation going forward. There are also hygiene factors there. Oracle have introduced a much more powerful user experience for the customers, especially in today's world where we're mobile, working from home, etc. And that's got a code name of Redwood. And that's at the moment a big piece of work that many organizations are about to undertake. And we're doing this for a lot of customers, not just our own managed service customers, but for a lot of customers who just want some help to help them move them through the redwood part. And that kind of piece of work that moves your organization forward, or something that deals with a challenge in your organization, these are the things that we are doing for customers every day. So again, anything that you think that we might be able to help you with, let's do it now, because it's not going to go away in that period of time. And again, then you will be in the best possible place for when it is your turn. So I suppose the last scenario is, what if you're not Oracle today, and you've got issues? Well, we might not be able to fix those issues for you, but I'm sure that we'll have, something that we can do that will help. But the idea of today is around having that conversation and starting it. So regardless of where you are and where you're going, you can get prepared. So, excuse me, I go back to have a look at your system today, understand what it is, and look at your data and your customizations, your integrations, and your processes. And this has been quite, a short whistle-stop tour around what is a very complex IT, platform for yourselves. But it's just some of the things to consider. And we would love to have a longer conversation with you about your organisation specifically. So I'll pass you back to James, and hopefully we'll have some questions.
Thanks very much, Deborah. Very interesting. So we do have some time for some questions. We've got 12 or 13 minutes left. So before I wrap up, if you just want to put any questions into the question system that's up on the top right-hand corner there, we can answer anything that's front of mind for you.
We do have a couple of questions, James. The first one is, do you have any idea what the outcome of the shared service decision is going to be?
I wish. No. So the decisions will be made, as I said earlier, July, August. All of the processes are now complete in terms of the various software providers putting their bids in, and those decisions are expected during the summer. All I really know is that the major software providers have all put bids into this process. Obviously, we are an Oracle-only provider, so our hope is that Oracle is successful, but I don't yet know what the results would be. But keep an eye on the ground, because July, August, we should know.
Thank you. And we have another question that's just come in, which is, what is the process that will be followed once the cluster decisions are made?
Right. Okay. That's an interesting one. So whoever wins each of the clusters, they will have won with a service integrator, systems integrator, in partnership with them. Each of these clusters has got a first tranche of organizations which have been chosen to move to the new technology first. So the priority for whoever wins these clusters will be to move that first tranche. That, of course, could take some time. And if your organization is not in that first tranche, then clearly you could be waiting some time before it's your turn to move to this technology platform. And that's really why we've spent the last half an hour or so talking to you about your choices. Because if you're not in the first tranche, if you do have a burning platform, if you do have issues with your current technology, then there are options that you can take, and there are things that you can do to improve your situation without having to wait for your turn in the cluster queue. Hopefully that answers the question.
And just to add to that, this is, I said in my introduction that my role was to make sure that people got the best out of what it is that they've invested in. And I just feel that waiting is not the best use for your organization. Is there something that you can do today to overcome challenges that you've got today, rather than just waiting for your turn to move something. And yeah, just come and chat to us, because it's, do you know, I love interaction with customers because that's where I learn the most. So, you know, however small, or even if you don't think it's something that we can do, reach out for a chat and we'll learn, if nothing else.
Great. Janie, any more questions?
No, we don't have any more questions coming in just now.
That's
But if we have any others at the end, when this is finished, I will pass them on to you and we'll answer them
super.
offline.
We'll look to give you a little bit of time back. Thanks very much for your attendance today, and for listening to what we had to say. I hope you found it useful, and food for thought. We'll share the video recording with you once this webinar ends, and please do feel free to contact either of us if you'd like a more in-depth conversation about what you've heard today. There are contact details in the deck there, and you'll get those in the recording. Thanks very much for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.